So we'll use this connecting rod as a reference, and using this we'll create other parts, like we'll add the nuts and bolts here, we'll add the bearing shell here and the bushing here. Now the method of using an existing part as a reference is also called in-context modeling, and that's what we are going to do. But before we do that, let's fine-tune this connecting rod because there are a few problems still in this one. Well, the first problem is this hole, and as you can see, the hole though looks kind of okay, in this case I simply ignored the distance that was required for the bearing shell here and the bushing here. So I simply added it right in this material, but we of course need to cut it out of this. So we have to increase the diameter of this hole and this hole. Another thing is this, right here we need to add the nut and bolt for connecting this piece with this one. And in this case, it looks like it's just one single piece of a connecting rod, and that's not the way it should be. So we need to split it from here. So let's first start by changing this diameter. And to do that, I'll go to this Boss Extrude feature, actually this one here, Boss Extrude 2 feature, and I'll select its sketch and edit sketch. Now this is 58. So of course we need to increase this value. It should be 62. There we are. And just exit out of this sketch. Done. Now to increase this one, we need to change the value of this cut extrude feature, that's here, and sketch, edit sketch, and this should be 22. Alright, so now we have more diameter for both of these. Exit out of this and we are done. Now before wrapping this up, I'll also change this chamfer value, though it is kind of okay, but I'll just change that to something smaller. And for that, I'll simply go to this chamfer. Now it looks like that's the outer chamfer, so this is the one which we need, the inner chamfer. Edit feature, and this distance is 3.6. Alright, so 3.6. With that, click OK, and we have the chamfer added here. Now we are ready to create that split. To do that, go to Insert, Feature, and right here we have a feature called Split. Select it, and now select a tool for trimming. In this case, I'll select one of the standard planes, right plane, because this is where we want to cut this feature using this plane. Select that plane and click on Cut Part. And now the part is split in two. So we have this one, the bottom half, and this one, the top half. Right now it has no name, so let's assign it. So I'll double click here and I'll give it a name. Now currently it is saving automatically on the cloud, but I will save it locally after giving it a title. So let's call it bottom half rod and save it. And then I'll double click here and I'll call it top half rod and just save it. Alright, so these are saved. So with that, you can click OK. Before that, you can also check this option, consume cut bodies, and that's just going to delete the bodies here. And you can also check the propagate visual properties, and when you do that, it will transfer the visual properties like the material and texture from this part to the newly created part. In this case, checking these boxes is not required, so I'll simply click OK here. And as you can see, it is split into two parts. Not only that, the two parts are also here. So we have the bottom half and the top half. Select bottom half, here we are, and we have the top half, that's here. Now both of these are external references, which means it is linked with the main part. So make sure your main part is still in the drawing and simply don't delete it if you want to use both the features. Now I'll just go to this Save As, and I'll save it locally as well. So I'll save it to this PC, and you may not need to do this. You can simply go to Save As and you can save it directly on your PC. So here I'll simply go to the same folder where I'm saving it, and top half rod, that's the name I'm going to use, and click on save. And we can close this. This is the bottom half, save as new, this PC, and bottom half rod, and save. And we can close this too. And we can actually close this entire thing as well. And we are done. Now it's time to start with the assembly. So we have the blank here, screen. Let's go to New and select Assembly and OK. Let's start by inserting the components. So go to Insert Component. And the first component that I'm going to use is this bottom half rod. And click Open. And just place it anywhere you like. So you can just click, or you can click on this green check mark and it will automatically place it on origin. That's what I want. So I'll click here. Now let's add the top half. So go to Insert Component, select top half rod and click Open. and let's just add it maybe here. All right, this is added. Now we are going to use both of these as a reference for creating other parts. But before that, let's assemble it together. So this plane and this one, they both should be coincident. So go to mate and they are coincident. All right. Now this center and this one, they are concentric, and that's already added. So click OK and done. Now it's mated properly. So click OK, and now let's add a new part. So we have the bottom half and the top half, and let's now go to this drop down and select new part. Now we are creating a brand new part right inside the assembly. So go to save and continue, give it a name, well, assembly, and I'll just save it. All right, now the assembly file is saved. We are ready to add all the new components. So we'll start with the bearing shell. So go to this one, drop down here and select new part and just give it a name. So I'll call it bearing shell and just click OK. And we have the bearing shell added here. Now we have a green check mark right next to cursor, which indicates that we need to select a plane for starting this. Now here also I'm going to use the default plane that I used so far, and that's this top plane for creating the bearing shell. All right, now that's selected, we are ready to make our drawing. So I'll select this normal 2 option. And if for whatever reason you don't have that normal 2 option, you can click this drop down right here. And from here you can select normal 2. And that will just make it like this. So let's go to circle. Right here we have the first circle and then we have the second circle. Now it's time to make it coincident. So I'll select this and then I'll select this edge right here and just make it co-radial. All right. And then add the diameter value for this one. And this should be 52. Actually, we can make it 54. There we are. So we've got this. Now we also need to split in half. Now to split this, I'll just add a line like this. And then we'll go to trim tool and trim just 1/2 of this. So these two and this one, and we have this kind of shape that we need. All right, so with that, exit out of this sketch. And now we are ready to extrude this. So go to feature, extruded boss base, and all the edits which we are making is happening right now in bearing shell. As you can see, we are inside this. This is highlighted. It's not changing assembly. It's just changing the part. So I'll click this sketch. Now here we are. So we just wanted to extrude only up to this height. So instead of selecting blind, I'll select up to vertex. And here we already have this vertex. So I'll just click on it. And that's the height. We also want it to extrude in the second direction. So go to second direction. Here also select up to vertex and specify the second vertex. So in this case, the second vertex is right here. So we may need to just revolve it or just select the vertex from here. And it's right about here. So there it is. It is now selected. So we have selected vertices on both the sides and there it is. It's done. Click OK and we have it added. Now exit out of this part and we have this. So the bearing shell is added, though it is very thick. We could have just made it, well, thinner, but it's added nonetheless. If you want to make it thin, just go to bearing shell and click on open part, or you can also select edit part and it will let you edit right here. Just like in the previous example, you can expand it, select the sketch and just make the changes. So it is 54, we can make it 56 and exit out of this sketch and exit out of this part, and here we are. Now in a similar way, we can add the bushing. Now for adding the bushing, once again, we need to start with a new component. So go to insert component, new part, and let's call it bushing. All right, so here also I'm going to use the same plane. So I'll go to this top plane and normal 2. We are ready to now create that bushing. So once again, we need 2 concentric circles. So using this center, first circle, the same center, and I've got the second one right here added. So I'll select this and then I'll select this one using control key and make it co-radial. And now we need to add the diameter for this one. So I'll just make it this big, and so that I have an approximate idea of this one, how big the diameter should be, and then I'll make it 18 unit. Of course, in a real world situation, you'll use the real dimensions, but in this case, since we are using approximations, I'll just eyeball it to add the dimension like so. So I'll exit out of this and we have it. Now we can extrude this feature as well. So go to feature and extruded boss base feature and select this sketch. And in this case, right click in the sketch contours area, clear it. And here we are, it is extruded in this direction. So you can either manually extrude it up to whatever height you want, or you can select any reference edge. Now in this case, I'll simply eyeball it and I'll add a height of 16 unit for this. So 16, and we need to add the same height for the other side. So you can just select direction 2, or maybe directly you can go to mid plane and just make it overall 32. And that's also going to work. So 32 and click OK and we are done. So we've got this one too. Now exit out of this part and we have the bushing as well added here.